The mining vessel Helios VI drifted silently through the Epsilon Eridani system, its massive ore bays half-filled after weeks of asteroid harvesting. The ship hummed with the quiet routine of a long mission, crew members moving through their tasks with practiced efficiency. Lieutenant Kim sat at the communications console on the bridge, his fingers dancing over controls as he adjusted signal parameters. The routine work had lulled him into a comfortable rhythm when an unexpected ping from his console jolted him upright. His eyes widened as he analyzed the incoming signal. "Captain Park," he called, his voice tight with urgency. "I'm receiving a distress signal. Human origin." Captain Park Jewry looked up from her data pad, immediately alert. She crossed the bridge in quick strides, her dark uniform crisp despite the weeks in space. Other crew members paused in their work, watching the exchange. "Source?" she asked, leaning over the communication station. Lieutenant Kim's fingers flew across the console. "It's coming from the unexplored sector beyond the outer belt." He paused, double-checking his readings before continuing. "Signal matches the Horizon Dawn *." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew about the Horizon Dawn *, a colony ship that vanished 15 years ago, with over 2,000 people on board. The disappearance had sparked the largest search operation in human space history, but no trace was ever found. First Officer Lee approached from the navigation station, his expression skeptical. "Could be pirates using an old transponder," he suggested. "They'd done it before to lure in rescue ships." Captain Park studied the signal pattern on the display, noting the distinctive pulse sequence that matched Earth Transport Authority protocols. Her fingers traced the waveform, feeling the weight of the decision before her. Company regulations were clear: investigate all distress signals unless they posed a clear danger to the vessel. "Maybe," she said finally. "But what if it's not?" She straightened, meeting the eyes of her bridge crew. "Plot a course, Officer Nam. We're investigating." First Officer Lee nodded reluctantly. "I'll alert the security team to stand by. Just in case." The Helios VI changed course, its massive engines flaring as it moved away from the asteroid field that had been their home for weeks. Captain Park ordered all non-essential systems powered down to increase their speed. In her private cabin later that day, she recorded a log entry explaining her decision, noting the slim chance of survivors but the obligation to check. 3 days passed as they traveled deeper into the unexplored sector. The crew grew tense with each passing hour, the unknown stretching before them. Lieutenant Kim continued to monitor the signal, which remained steady but never changed or responded to their hails. "We're approaching the signal source," Navigator Nam announced on the 4th day. Dropping out of acceleration in 30 seconds. Captain Park ordered all crew to battle stations, a precaution that raised eyebrows but was obeyed without question. The Helios VI slowed as it approached the coordinates, and the main view screen activated to show what lay before them. A collective gasp filled the bridge. A massive debris field stretched before them, glittering coldly in the light of a distant star. The wreckage of multiple vessels drifted in the void. Twisted metal, shattered hulls, and frozen gases forming a graveyard in space. That's not just the Horizon Dawn *, whispered Medical Officer Choi from the back of the bridge. "No," Captain Park agreed grimly. "And not all of it is human." The debris included structures and materials unlike anything in Earth's design archives. Metallic components with a blue sheen, hull fragments with strange, organic-looking patterns, and technology that defied immediate analysis. "Recording everything," said Lieutenant Kim, his voice barely above a whisper as he activated all sensor arrays. Captain Park ordered a careful approach. "Deploy the recovery drones. Look for any data storage devices, black boxes, anything that might tell us what happened here." For 6 hours, the small drones combed through the debris field, while the Helios VI maintained a safe distance. The crew worked in tense silence, jumping at every unexpected sound. Finally, A drone returned with something clutched in its mechanical arms, a damaged data core, its casing scared but intact. In the ship's lab, tech specialist Ryu worked to extract the information, her fingers steady despite the pressure. "I've got something," she announced after an hour. Video files, partially corrupted but viewable. The senior crew gathered in the conference room as the footage began to play. The shaky video showed the bridge of the Asterisk, Horizon Dawn Asterisk in chaos. Alarms blared as the colony ship's captain shouted orders. Through the viewports, strange ships with sleek, predatory designs could be seen firing weapons unlike anything in human arsenals. "This is Captain Wong of the Asterisk Horizon Dawn Asterisk," a desperate voice narrated over the footage. "We are under attack by unknown forces. No provocation, no warning. They've disabled our engines and are boarding. We've detected their communications. They're taking survivors to coordinates I'm embedding in this message. If anyone receives this, warn Earth." The footage ended with a violent shake in darkness. Captain Park's face was grim as she turned to her crew. "Send everything back to Earth," she ordered. "Priority 1 encryption. Include our sensor readings and location." Communications Officer Kim nodded, immediately beginning the transmission sequence. The massive data package would take several minutes to compile and send, even with their most powerful transmitters. "What do we do now, Captain?" asked First Officer Lee, his earlier skepticism replaced by tightly controlled fear. "Once the transmission is complete, we withdraw at maximum speed," Captain Park replied. "Our job is to get this information back. We're not equipped to." Her words were cut short as alarm klaxons suddenly blared throughout the ship. The deck trembled beneath their feet. Multiple objects approaching at high speed, called Navigator Nam from the bridge. Configuration matches the vessels in the footage. The transmission had barely completed when sensors blared in warning. The crew rushed back to the bridge to find the main view screen filled with a terrifying sight. The Asterisk Helios VII Asterisk was surrounded by ships identical to those in the footage, sleek, predatory vessels with weapons already powering up. Captain Park stared at the alien ships, her face set in determination as she reached for the ship-wide communications system. "All hands, prepare for emergency maneuvers. This is not a drill." The United Earth Defense Council chamber erupted into chaos as the footage from the Asterisk Helios VII Asterisk played on the massive screen. 50 of Earth's highest-ranking military and government officials watched in stunned silence as the alien ships attacked without warning, their strange weapons cutting through the colony ship's defenses like paper. "My God," whispered one counselor when the footage ended. "They're still out there." General Choi rose from his seat at the central table, his uniform perfectly pressed despite being summoned in the middle of the night. "We've lost contact with the Asterisk Helios VII Asterisk," he announced, his voice cutting through the growing panic. But their transmission was received intact. The mining vessel did its duty. Admiral Kang, the oldest member of the council at 83, leaned forward. His weathered face, marked by decades of service, grew grim as he studied the frozen image of the alien vessels. After a moment of heavy silence, he spoke 5 words that shocked even his fellow council members. "It's time. Activate the sleeping fleet." Nervous murmurs filled the room. Most of the younger officials had believed the sleeping fleet was just a myth, a deterrent story told to potential enemies. But the older members knew better. "Are you certain, Admiral?" asked Defense Minister Jin. "Once awakened, we cannot put them back to sleep." "I've never been more certain of anything," Admiral Kang replied. "This is exactly the threat they were created for." Within an hour, the Council voted unanimously to activate Protocol Lazarus. Deep beneath the lunar surface, in a facility hidden from public knowledge for decades, computers hummed to life. Climate controls adjusted as lighting gradually increased in a vast chamber housing rows of sleek hibernation pods. The first pod hissed open, releasing a cloud of cryogenic vapor. Inside, a man with steel-gray hair and a face weathered by experience opened his eyes for the first time in 20 years. Admiral Han Tawu, believed by the public to have honorably retired decades ago, took his first breath of fresh air since entering stasis. A young officer named Song stood at attention beside the pod. "Admiral," he greeted formally, "you've been reactivated. Earth needs you." Admiral Han sat up slowly, his muscles stiff but functional thanks to the electrical stimulation provided during his long sleep. He looked around at the other pods beginning to open throughout the massive chamber. "How long?" he asked, his voice raspy from disuse. 20 years, sir," Officer Song replied, offering the Admiral a hydration pack. Admiral Han drank deeply, his mind already racing. The threat. Unknown alien force, sir. Attacked without provocation. Destroyed a colony ship and recently a mining vessel that found the wreckage. The Admiral nodded once. "Begin the briefing sequence for all personnel. I want everyone combat ready in 6 hours." Throughout the lunar base, 2,000 elite soldiers and specialists emerged from stasis. Pilots, engineers, tactical officers, marines, and scientific experts, all chosen for their exceptional abilities and sworn to secrecy before entering hibernation. Each had volunteered knowing they might awaken to a world completely different from the one they left. Medical teams moved efficiently through the awakening chambers, checking vitals and administering supplements to counteract muscle atrophy. The base's mess halls filled with groggy but disciplined personnel consuming their first real meals in decades. 6 hours later, fully dressed in his command uniform, Admiral Han stood on a raised platform in the base's largest assembly hall. Before him stood 2,000 recently awakened crew members, their faces showing determination despite the disorientation of their situation. "While we slept," he began, his voice carrying to every corner of the hall, "the world changed. Earth built new cities. Technology advanced. Children were born. Our loved ones lived their lives." He paused, letting the weight of those words sink in. "But our purpose never did. We protect humanity from threats it never expected to face." The crowd remained silent, processing both their mission and their personal losses. Many had left behind spouses who were instructed to move on after 5 years, children who had grown up without them, parents who had likely passed away. "Each of you volunteered knowing the cost," Admiral Han continued. "Today, I honor that sacrifice. Humanity needs its guardians, and we answer the call." In the command center, Admiral Han met with his senior officers. The room buzzed with activity as systems dormant for decades came fully online. Massive screens displayed the 12 vessels of the sleeping fleet, advanced warships with technology still classified even 20 years later. Commander Ba, the Admiral's second-in-command, approached with a datapad. "Sir, final reports confirm the Helios VI has gone silent," he reported grimly. Long-range scans showed debris consistent with its design specifications. "We're already too late for them." The room fell silent, all eyes turning to Admiral Han. His expression hardened, jaw tight with resolve. "Then we make sure they didn't die in vain," he said firmly. "Prepare the fleet for launch. Combat status Alpha." Throughout the lunar base, preparations accelerated. Weapons systems were checked and rechecked. Supplies were loaded onto the waiting ships. Personnel filed aboard their assigned vessels, taking positions at stations designed specifically for them 2 decades earlier. Lieutenant Shin found herself staring at a photograph in her quarters aboard the flagship Dauntless *. The image showed her husband and 3-year-old daughter, both now strangers to her. She tucked the photo into her uniform pocket before heading to her station in the Weapons Control Center. Across the fleet, similar scenes played out as the awakened crews confronted their new reality. Some discovered through quick database searches that their families had prospered. Others learned of tragedies that had occurred while they slept. Deaths, disasters, divorces, all carried these burdens silently as they prepared for battle. 12 hours after the first pod opened, Admiral Han stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, watching as his crew performed their duties with the precision their years of specialized training had instilled. "All vessels report ready, Admiral," announced Commander Ba. Admiral Han nodded once. "Then let us show these aliens why humanity's guardians were kept asleep until they were truly needed." He pressed the ship-wide communication button. "All hands, prepare for launch. The sleeping fleet awakens." The lunar surface above them parted, revealing the stars beyond. One by one, the 12 ships of humanity's deadliest armada rose into the darkness, their advanced engines glowing with cold fire as they prepared to hunt. The sleeping fleet emerged from slit space at Epsilon Eridani with a flash of light and distortion. 12 warships, their hulls gleaming with the distinctive blue-black alloy developed specifically for them, moved into defensive formation as soon as they arrived. On the bridge of the flagship Dauntless Asterisk, Admiral Han stood with his hands clasped behind his back, studying the main view screen. "Scan for any trace of the asterisk, Helios VII asterisk," he ordered. Lieutenant Min worked quickly at the sensor station. "No debris matching Earth vessel signatures in this sector, Admiral. No distress beacons active." Admiral Han frowned. They were here. The transmission originated from this location. "They might have been captured intact," suggested Commander Ba, "or moved elsewhere after sending the message." Navigator O approached the command platform. "Admiral, I've analyzed the coordinates embedded in the data core from the asterisk Horizon Dawn asterisk. They point to a system approximately 3 light-years from our current position." Admiral Han nodded. "Set course. Maximum speed." The fleet moved in perfect synchronization, their engines powering up to speeds that would have been impossible for standard military vessels. The ship's AI calculated the slip space jump, tearing open a temporary hole in reality that allowed them to cross the vast distance in mere hours. When they emerged, a red dwarf star burned before them, its dim light casting the fleet in an eerie crimson glow. Navigator O's fingers danced across her console. "System scan complete," she announced. 5 planets. The third one shows artificial structures and energy signatures. "Take us into high orbit," Admiral Han ordered. "Stealth protocols active." The fleet approached cautiously, their advanced cloaking systems rendering them nearly invisible to standard detection methods. As they entered orbit around the third planet, the main viewscreen filled with images of a barren, rocky world. In the northern hemisphere, a massive complex sprawled across the surface. "It appears to be a mining and processing facility," reported Science Officer Moon. "Heavy machinery, processing plants, residential structures." Dr. Yoon, the fleet's xenobiologist, studied the sensor readings with growing interest. Her eyes widened as she processed the data. "Multiple species detected," she said, looking up from her station. "At least 7 distinct biological signatures. Several appear to be working under duress based on movement patterns and guard positions." Intelligence Officer Shin leaned forward at her console. "Magnify Sector 7, she ordered sharply. The display zoomed in on a section of the mining facility where figures moved heavy equipment under the watchful eyes of armed guards. The image clarified, revealing unmistakably human figures among the laborers. They wore tattered jumpsuits, their bodies thin and movements weary. "Survivors," breathed Commander Ba. "Perhaps from both ships," Admiral Han said quietly. "We need more information before we act." "They're the Vex Dominion," said a voice from behind them. The bridge crew turned in surprise. A man stood at the entrance to the bridge, his uniform identifying him as medical staff. Beside him stood a thin man with hollow cheeks and haunted eyes. "This is Jun," the medical officer explained quickly. "He was among the refugees we rescued from that slave transport 6 months ago." He recognized the ship designs from the footage. Admiral Han motioned for the man to approach. "What can you tell us about them?" Jian moved forward hesitantly, his eyes darting around the advanced bridge. "They conquer and assimilate. Their empire spans this entire sector of space. The strong become soldiers, the rest become labor." His voice trembled slightly. They took my world 3 years ago. How did you escape? Asked Commander Ba. I didn't. I was being transported to another labor camp when my ship was attacked by pirates. In the confusion, some of us got to escape pods. He pointed at the screen. But those people down there won't be so lucky. Admiral Han studied the facility for several long moments. We need more intelligence before we commit to a full engagement. He turned to Commander Co, the leader of the fleet's Special Operations Team. Commander, prepare a rescue mission. Small team, quick extraction. Focus on retrieving our people and any potential intelligence. Commander Co nodded sharply. Yes. Admiral, we'll be ready in 2 hours. 6 hours later, Commander Co led a team of 20 Special Forces operators in 2 stealth shuttles toward the planet's surface. Their ships, designed specifically for covered insertions, slipped past the facility's defenses without triggering alarms. Guard patrol patterns established, reported Lieutenant Ryu over the comm. Extraction window opens in 30 seconds. Commander Co checked his plasma rifle one final time. All teams, execute on my mark. Mark. The 2 teams moved with practiced precision through the facility. Stun weapons dropped guards silently while electronic countermeasures blinded surveillance systems. They reached the human labor barracks and quickly identified the prisoners. We're with Earth Defense, Commander Co told the startled laborers. We're getting you out. Can you walk? A woman with captain's insignia still visible on her tattered uniform stepped forward. Captain Park, Helios VII. Most of us can move. The seriously injured are in the medical bay. Commander Co assigned a team to retrieve the injured while his group escorted the mobile prisoners back to the shuttles. Alarms began to sound just as they reached the extraction point. Move! Move! He shouted as guards began to appear. The Special Forces team provided covering fire as the rescued humans boarded the shuttles. Commander Co was the last aboard, diving through the hatch as it closed behind him. The shuttles lifted off, their engines screaming as they accelerated toward space. Pursuit vessels launching, warned the pilot. Dauntless to extraction team. Admiral Han's voice came over the comm. We have you covered. Above the planet, 2 of the fleet's destroyers decloaked, their weapons systems targeting the pursuing craft. Precision strikes disabled the alien vessels without destroying them completely. We don't want to show our full capabilities yet, Admiral Han explained to his bridge crew. Just enough to cover our people's escape. The shuttles docked safely with the fleet, which immediately jumped to a safe distance. Medical teams rushed to treat the rescued prisoners while intelligence officers began debriefings. 37 humans had been rescued, 15 from the Helios VII, and 22 from the Horizon Dawn *. Their conditions varied from relatively healthy to severely malnourished. In the main conference room, Captain Park of the Helios VII sat across from Admiral Han. Despite her ordeal, she maintained the bearing of a ship's captain. They attacked us without warning, she reported. Disabled our engines with some kind of energy pulse, then boarded. They sorted us by physical condition and skills. The engineers were taken elsewhere. The rest of us went to that mining facility. Did you learn anything about their capabilities? Their plans? Asked Admiral Han. Captain Park's eyes hardened. They have hundreds of worlds, Admiral. Their territory is vast, and they're methodical. She leaned forward. From what I gathered from the guards' conversations, they're preparing to expand toward Earth. Our sector is next on their list. Admiral Han's expression remained calm, but his eyes reflected the gravity of her words. Thank you, Captain. Get some rest. You and your crew have done enough. After she left, Admiral Han remained in the conference room, studying star charts and the limited intelligence they had gathered. Commander Ba found him there hours later. The prisoners are all in stable condition, he reported, and they've provided valuable intelligence about the Vex fleet movements and communication protocols. Admiral Han looked up from his charts. Good. "Because we're not running home to report, Commander." He pointed to a formation of stars on the display. "We're taking the fight to them." Armed with first-hand intelligence from the rescued prisoners, Admiral Han gathered his captains in the Dauntless war room. 12 men and women stood around the holographic display showing Vex territory and fleet positions. Their faces reflected the gravity of their situation. 12 ships against an empire spanning hundreds of worlds. "Our advantage is surprise," Admiral Han said, moving his hand through the display to highlight key Vex outposts. The Vex have never faced organized resistance. Their conquests have always been against unprepared worlds with limited space capabilities. Captain Jin of the destroyer Thunderbolt frowned. "Even with our technological edge, we're outnumbered at least 50 to 1. Admiral Han nodded, acknowledging the concern. "Which is why we won't fight fair." He expanded a section of the map. "This outpost serves as a communication relay. It's lightly defended because the Vex have never needed heavy defenses. We strike here first, then move to these supply depots before they can react." The captains studied the plan, asking questions and suggesting refinements. After 3 hours, they had a strategy that played to their strengths. "The Vex expect submission, not resistance," Admiral Han concluded. "We'll use that to our advantage." 2 days later, the sleeping fleet dropped out of slip space near the Vex communication relay. The facility orbited a gas giant, its spinning rings maintaining contact with Vex ships across the sector. "No indication they've detected us," reported Lieutenant Min from the sensor station. Admiral Han stood from his command chair. "All ships, weapons free. Execute attack pattern Delta." The 12 ships of the sleeping fleet decloaked simultaneously and opened fire. Their advanced weapon systems, designed with technologies still theoretical when they entered stasis, cut through the Vex defenses like paper. Precision strikes disabled the relay's communication arrays and defensive systems without destroying the structure itself. "Boarding teams ready," announced Commander CO from the hangar deck. "Proceed," ordered Admiral Han. Within 20 minutes, Special Forces teams secured the relay and captured its personnel. Engineering teams downloaded the Vex communication protocols and installed Earth technology that would allow them to monitor and disrupt Vex transmissions across the sector. "First objective complete," reported Commander Ba. "Minimal casualties, sir." Admiral Han nodded in satisfaction. "Prepare for jump to Target 2. Over the next week, the sleeping fleet struck 5 critical Vex installations. Each attack followed the same pattern: appear suddenly, strike with overwhelming precision, capture key technology and personnel, then disappear before reinforcements could arrive. The Vex, accustomed to being the predators rather than the prey, responded with increasing desperation. After the 5th successful raid, Communications Officer Min looked up from her console with alarm. "Admiral, we're intercepting Vex transmissions. They're calling for reinforcements from their core systems." Admiral Han smiled slightly. "Good. That means they're taking us seriously." The next phase of the plan involved greater risk. The fleet split into 3 battle groups to simultaneously attack Vex-controlled worlds with slave populations. The raids were not just military strikes, but rescue operations, freeing thousands of beings from dozens of species from Vex labor camps. On the agricultural world Kepler 186F, Commander CO led a ground force that liberated a processing facility where humans and 3 other species worked under harsh conditions. As they evacuated the prisoners, a tall reptilian being approached him. "I am Toru, elder of the Narration people," the alien said through a translator. "We have ships hidden in the mountains. Many of my people can fight. We wish to join your resistance." Similar scenarios played out across other worlds. Species that had been conquered by the Vex saw humanity's strikes as an opportunity to fight back. The sleeping fleet suddenly found itself at the center of an interstellar resistance movement. Admiral Han welcomed these new allies, integrating their ships and fighters into his battle plans. The fleet's AI developed translation protocols that allowed the diverse species to communicate effectively during combat operations. 2 weeks into the campaign, Admiral Han authorized a more ambitious operation. Intelligence gathered from the raid suggested a Vex command vessel, the Dominator had entered the sector to coordinate the response to human attacks. "This is our chance to gather strategic intelligence," Admiral Han told his officers. "If we can infiltrate their command ship, we may learn their overall battle plans." Commander CO volunteered to lead the infiltration team personally. Using a captured Vex shuttle and identities taken from the communication relay, his team approached the massive Vex vessel. "Maintain communication silence once we're aboard," he instructed his team. "We'll rendezvous at these coordinates in 6 hours." The mission nearly failed when a security officer recognized one of the team members as an imposter, but quick thinking and quicker reflexes saved the operation. Commander CO's team reached the ship's data center and downloaded massive amounts of tactical information before fighting their way back to their shuttle. 3 team members didn't make it back. The shuttle, damaged during their escape, limped to the rendezvous point where the Dauntless waited under cloak. In the ship's medical bay, Commander CO reported to Admiral Han despite his injuries. "The data confirms our worst fears, sir. The Vex have detailed plans to harvest Earth and its colonies. They consider our technology level ideal for assimilation." He paused, wincing as a medic treated a plasma burn on his shoulder. "But there's more. The Vex have dispatched their elite armada. 6 dreadnoughts and over 30 support vessels. They're coming in force." Admiral Han absorbed this news silently, calculating odds and possibilities. Around him, his officers waited tensely for his response. "Good," he said finally, his eyes gleaming with resolve. "That means we've hurt them enough to warrant their full attention." Commander Ba looked concerned. "Sir, we can't possibly stand against their elite armada in direct combat." "No," Admiral Han agreed. "We can't." He moved to the holomap and entered coordinates. A neutron star appeared, its intense gravitational field shown in swirling patterns, which is why we'll draw them here and prepare the trap. "A neutron star?" asked Science Officer Moon. "The gravitational forces could tear our ships apart if we miscalculate." Admiral Han nodded. "Precisely. And the Vex don't know our ship's capabilities, as well as we know theirs." He zoomed in on a section near the star. "We'll position our allies here, hidden by the radiation. The sleeping fleet will appear vulnerable, retreating toward the star as if damaged." Understanding dawned on Commander Ba's face. "When they pursue, they'll be caught between us, our allies, and one of the most destructive forces in the universe," Admiral Han finished. "Send the coordinates to all allied vessels. We have 3 days to prepare before the Vex elite armada arrives." As the officers dispersed to prepare their ships, Admiral Han remained at the holomap, studying the neutron star's gravitational patterns. The coming battle would determine not just humanity's fate, but that of countless other species across this sector of space. 20 years asleep, he murmured to himself. For this moment, the battle near the neutron star began with the human fleet seemingly outmatched. The Vex armada appeared on long-range sensors, 6 massive dreadnoughts flanked by 30 smaller but still formidable vessels. Their hulls gleamed with an organic metallic sheen that absorbed light rather than reflected it. "Vex fleet approaching optimal engagement range," reported Navigator O, her voice steady despite the tension on the bridge. Admiral Han sat calmly in his command chair, watching the tactical display. To any observer, the 12 ships of the sleeping fleet appeared to be in disarray, as if retreating after a failed attack. 3 had visible damage to their outer hulls, carefully staged by engineering teams to appear more severe than it was. "All ships maintain current speed and heading," he ordered. "Let them think we're running." The Vex armada increased speed, eager to finish the troublesome humans who had disrupted their careful plans for expansion. Their formation tightened as they approached the neutron star's outer gravitational field. "They've taken the bait," said Commander Ba. "Moving into position now." Admiral Han waited until the lead Vex vessels crossed the invisible line marked on his tactical display. The massive warships were now committed to their approach vector, the neutron star's gravity beginning to influence their trajectory. "Now," ordered Admiral Han. At his command, the sleeping fleet's true capabilities were unleashed. Ships that had appeared damaged suddenly reversed course with impossible speed. Weapon ports opened across their hulls, revealing systems that had remained classified even after 20 years. "All ships, execute Pattern Omega," Admiral Han commanded. "Weapons free." The sleeping fleet's eye-enhanced combat systems activated, predicting Vex maneuvers before they occurred. Targeting computers calculated firing solutions that accounted for the neutron star's warped spacetime. The first salvo caught the Vex completely by surprise. Experimental gravity weapons distorted space around enemy vessels, crushing outer hull sections and disrupting their power systems. Quantum-locked torpedoes bypassed shields entirely, phasing through outer defenses before rematerializing inside enemy ships. "Allied forces, engage," Admiral Han ordered over the secure channel. From behind the radiation shadow of a nearby planetary body, 40 ships of various designs appeared. The hastily assembled alliance of species previously conquered by the Vex moved into attack positions, catching the Vex Armada in a devastating crossfire. "The Vex flagship is adjusting position," reported Lieutenant Min. "They're trying to retreat." Admiral Han studied the massive vessel's movements. Not retreat. They're repositioning to coordinate a counterattack. "Commander CO, execute boarding operation." Commander CO nodded sharply and left the bridge. 5 minutes later, his stealth shuttle launched from the Dauntless Asterisk, using the chaos of battle as cover to approach the Vex flagship. With him was Dr. Yoon, the fleet's xenobiologist, whose understanding of Vex physiology might prove crucial. Their shuttle slipped through a gap in the flagship's defenses created by a precision strike from 2 human destroyers. Using breaching charges, Commander CO's team cut their way into a secondary maintenance bay. "Remember, we need to reach the command center intact," Commander CO reminded his team as they moved through the alien corridors, encountering scattered resistance. The Vex defenders fought fiercely, but were unprepared for the enhanced capabilities of the human boarding team. Special armor developed for the sleeping fleet's Marines provided both protection and augmented strength, while their weapons had been specifically calibrated to counter Vex biological vulnerabilities. After 20 minutes of intense fighting, Commander CO and Dr. Yoon reached the command center with half their original team. The massive chamber contained dozens of Vex officers, and on a raised platform, the Vex High Commander, larger than the others, with distinctive red markings across its exoskeleton. "Secure the room," Commander CO ordered as his team neutralized the Vex officers with stun weapons. Dr. Yoon approached the High Commander, activating her translation device. The alien regarded her with multiple eyes that shifted color as it processed the situation. "Why pursue conquest on this scale?" Dr. Yoon asked, genuinely curious despite the circumstances. "Why not seek peaceful contact?" The alien's translator processed its clicking response. "Our homeworld is dying. Radiation from our sun has mutated our atmosphere. We survive by taking what others have." The High Commander's eyes shifted to a deep blue. "It is our only path to survival." Dr. Yoon relayed this information to Admiral Han, while Commander CO's team secured the flagship's weapons systems. On the bridge of the Dauntless Asterisk, Admiral Han considered this new information carefully. Around his ship, the battle continued to turn in humanity's favor. 3 Vex dreadnoughts had been disabled, and the Allied fleet was systematically targeting the smaller vessels. "Open a channel to the Vex command frequency," he ordered. When Communications Officer Min nodded confirmation, Admiral Han spoke clearly and firmly. "This is Admiral Han Tawu of the United Earth Defense Fleet. We have control of your flagship and have disabled half your armada." He paused to let this sink in. "Your choice is simple: peaceful coexistence or annihilation. Humanity extends one hand in alliance, but holds a sword in the other." He gestured to Science Officer Moon, who had been analyzing the data recovered from previous raids. "We understand your homeworld is dying. Earth has terraforming technology that could help restore it. We offer this knowledge freely, in exchange for the immediate cessation of all hostile actions and the liberation of conquered worlds." The Vex High Commander's response came after a long pause. "You would help those who sought to conquer you. We would help those who choose peace over war," Admiral Han replied. "That is humanity's greatest strength." Hours later, the remaining Vex forces surrendered. The High Commander agreed to a preliminary treaty that would be formalized with Earth's government. All human prisoners would be released immediately, and a process for liberating other conquered species would begin. 3 weeks later, the sleeping fleet approached Earth. Admiral Han stood on the bridge of the Dauntless Asterisk, watching the blue planet grow larger on the view screen. Beside him stood Commander Seo, still recovering from injuries sustained during the boarding action. "We were created for war," Commander Seo said quietly, "but we've achieved peace." Admiral Han nodded, his expression thoughtful. "For now," he replied. "The sleeping fleet sleeps no more. There are other threats among the stars." Behind them, the ships of the fleet moved in perfect formation. Humanity's deadliest armada, now the unexpected guardians of a fragile interstellar peace. On Earth below, news of the fleet's return spread quickly. Crowds gathered at viewing platforms to witness the ships enter orbit, sleek, powerful vessels that most civilians had never seen before. Government officials prepared welcome ceremonies while privately wondering how to integrate these warriors from the past into a society that had moved on without them. For the crew of the sleeping fleet, the future remained uncertain. Many had awakened to find their families gone. Their homes changed, their world moved on. Yet they had found new purpose in the stars, and new allies among species they had never imagined. As the Dauntless Asterisk began its descent toward Earth, Admiral Han took one last look at the fleet that had changed the course of human history with a single decisive campaign. "We were sleeping giants," he murmured, "and now the galaxy knows we're awake."